Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, MR.Creepy, and so today's video is definitely going to creep you out. In this video, we're getting into 4 real horror stories from people who stopped at abandoned or isolated gas stations late at night and walked away changed forever. Before we begin, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. If you enjoy this kind of content, make sure to like the video and subscribe. Alright, let's get into tonight's stories. This was January of 2022. My girlfriend Mara and I had been driving since early morning, doing one of those long-haul trips you always convince yourself will be fine until hour 11 hits and your back is destroyed and neither of you is speaking in full sentences anymore. We were heading from Kansas City to Pittsburgh for her cousin's wedding. The plan was to drive straight through the night, split the driving, save the hotel money. It seemed smart when we planned it. By 2 a.m., somewhere in the frozen middle of Ohio, it didn't seem smart anymore. The temperature outside had dropped to 18 degrees. I know because my dashboard was showing it, and I kept glancing at it like the number might improve. It didn't. The highway was completely empty in both directions. No trucks, no headlights, no signs of life. Just the white dashes on the road pulling us forward and frost building up at the corners of the windshield where the defroster couldn't quite reach. Mara had fallen asleep in the passenger seat about an hour earlier, her jacket pulled up over her shoulder like a blanket. I had the radio on low, some talk station that kept cutting in and out with static the further we went. The gas gauge had been bothering me for about 30 miles, not in a red yet, but close enough that I was doing the mental math every few minutes, estimating how far we could push it before we had a real problem. I'd passed one exit that had nothing, just a ramp that disappeared into darkness. Then I started seeing the signs for a place called Porter's, green highway markers, the old-fashioned kind with reflective white lettering, the kind that looks like it was installed in 1987 and never updated. The sign said gas open and gave a mileage count that ticked down over the next several miles. Something about the signs felt off to me even then. No logo, no brand, just Porter's and gas like that was enough. When the exit came, I took it. Mara stirred when we slowed down, asked where we were. I told her a gas station. She looked out the window at the darkness and said, "Okay," then leaned her head back again. The road off the highway was unlit. About a quarter mile of cracked asphalt with dead weeds on both sides, frozen stiff and leaning toward the road like they were listening. Then the building came into view. One pump island, one overhead light that was buzzing visibly, the kind of electrical hum you can hear from 10 feet away on a quiet night. A low brick building with a single window lit from inside in that dim orange way, not bright, not welcoming, just present. The hand-painted sign above the door said, Porter's. The paint was peeling at the bottom corners. There were no posted hours, no brand signage on the pumps. One of the pump handles had a plastic bag rubber banded over it, the kind you see when a pump is broken. The other one wasn't. There were 2 vehicles in the lot. A dented pickup truck with no front plate, parked at an angle like it had been abandoned mid-turn, and an older sedan parked along the side of the building with every single window completely fogged from the inside. Not condensation from cold that fogs the outside. This was interior fog, which meant someone was inside that car, but the car wasn't running. No exhaust coming from the tailpipe. Whoever was in that sedan had been sitting there, not moving, engine off in 18-degree weather, long enough to fog every window solid. I told myself it was a trucker sleeping it off. I told myself that with real effort, I got out to pump. The cold grabbed me immediately, the dry Ohio kind that goes straight into your ears and jaw. I swiped my card. The reader accepted it, which surprised me. While the pump ran, I stood with my hands shoved in my pockets and tried not to look at the sedan. I failed. I looked at it 3 times. Nothing changed. The windows stayed fogged. No movement that I could see. Mara got out to use the restroom. I watched her push through the front door of the building. The pump finished. I replaced the nozzle and then went inside to grab something warm to drink. The inside was overheated, stuffy in a sealed-up way, like the door hadn't been opened in a while before we came in. A single man sat behind the counter, older, maybe late 60s, flannel shirt, reading a magazine flat on the counter with both palms pressed down on it. He didn't look up when I came in, not a glance. The space heater near his feet glowed orange-red. There was a smell underneath the warmth I couldn't name right away, something damp and faintly chemical, like wet concrete or old mop water. I grabbed a coffee from the machine along the wall, the kind where you press a button and it dispenses into a paper cup. I carried it to the counter. The man still didn't look up. I put down $2. He slid one back toward me without a word, still not making eye contact, like he'd calculated the price without looking. I stood there a second too long, waiting for something normal to happen. It didn't. I picked up the change and walked toward the back. The hallway to the restrooms was dim, one bulb completely dead, the other working but flickering every 4 seconds in a rhythm that felt almost deliberate. There were 2 doors, men's and women's. Between them, on the wall, there was a framed photograph. That detail stuck with me more than it should have. It was a family portrait, the old formal kind, husband and wife and 2 children sitting in front of a painted backdrop. Normal enough, except the glass over the photo was cracked all the way across, and someone had pressed something against it, a thumb maybe, in the center of the crack, leaving a smudge directly over the woman's face. I used the men's room and came back out into the hallway. At the same time, Mara came out of the women's room. Her expression stopped me before she said anything. She had that specific look she gets when she's trying to stay calm and not succeeding. Her jaw was tight. She grabbed my arm and pulled me toward the exit without speaking. We got through the front door. The man at the counter still didn't look up. Outside, the cold hit again. Mara waited until we were at the car before she said anything. She kept her voice low, like she didn't want the building to hear. "The window in the women's restroom," she said. "It's one of those small frosted ones, up near the ceiling. It was open, just cracked. And on the inside ledge, there were boot prints, like someone had been standing on the toilet to reach it. The prints were fresh. The dust around them was disturbed. I looked at the building. The single-lit window stared back, and there was something else," she said. "On the inside of the stall door, someone had written something in what looked like a marker. It said, 'Don't go back to your car alone.'" I felt my whole chest go tight. We both turned and looked at the sedan at the same time. The passenger window had changed. The fog that had covered it completely was now cleared in one wide arc, a deliberate wipe from the inside, like someone had used their forearm to clear a viewing strip. And through that strip, in the darkness inside the car, there was a shape, seated, still, facing our direction. I don't remember deciding to get in the car. I just remember being in it, doors locked, Mara already in the passenger seat, my hands finding the keys. I pulled out of that lot without the headlights on for the first 3 seconds, because my hands weren't working right. I turned them on once we hit the access road. I didn't look in the rear view. Mara was completely silent. We drove 40 miles before either of us said a word, and when we did talk, we talked around it. That place, back there, that stop. We never said Porter's. We never looked it up. I've thought about it many times, and every time I think about looking it up, I decide not to. The handwriting in that stall, "Don't go back to your car alone." Someone wrote that. Someone who had been in that building before us, standing in that same stall, reading the same walls. And either they listened to it and made it out, or they didn't, and someone else found the warning later. I don't stop at unmarked lots anymore. No posted hours, no visible brand, one working pump. I keep driving. Mara does the same. We've never had a conversation about making that a rule. We didn't need to. Some things get decided without words. I worked the overnight shift at a gas station named Mercer's Fill on Route 9 in rural Montana. That's all the backstory you need. February 2020, solo shift, 18 miles from the nearest town in either direction, and a stretch of highway so empty on a bad winter night that you could stand at the pumps and genuinely believe you were the last person alive on Earth. The cold out there wasn't normal cold. It was the kind that made your eyes water the second you stepped outside, that froze the inside of your nose on the first breath. That turned the gravel lot into a sheet of compressed ice that crunched like broken glass under your boots. Most nights I'd see maybe 12, 15 customers between 10 and 6. On bad weather nights, fewer. I had a space heater under the counter, a monitor showing 4 camera feeds, and a radio that picked up 2 stations. I watched those camera feeds constantly, not out of professionalism, just because it was something to look at. Front lot, back lot, pump island, road-facing camera above the door, 4 grey rectangles of nothing most of the night. That was the job. At 3:08 a.m. on a Tuesday, a dark green sedan pulled into the lot. I know the exact time because I glanced at the clock the second I heard tires on the frozen gravel. It was such a rare sound at that hour that it snapped me straight out of the half-sleep I'd been drifting in. The car rolled up to the nearest pump, the one closest to the building, and stopped, engine still running. I could see the exhaust on the camera feed, thick white clouds pouring off the back of the car and getting torn sideways by the wind. The rear driver's side brake light was out, giving the car a lopsided, broken look. I waited for the door to open. It didn't. A minute passed, then 2. The engine kept running, exhaust kept coming. I leaned close to the monitor and tried to see through the windshield, but the camera angle caught the overhead pump light as a glare across the glass. I could make out the shape of a person in the driver's seat, just a silhouette, upright, not slumped like someone sleeping, not moving like someone on a phone, just sitting there, engine running, going nowhere, at 3 a.m. in weather that would give you frostbite in under 10 minutes if you stood still outside. 5 minutes. The exhaust kept coming. I told myself they'd fallen asleep. Long drive, warm car. They'd drifted off at the pump without even cutting the engine. I'd seen it before. Not often, but it happened. I pulled my jacket on, told myself I'd tap the window, make sure they were okay, and be back inside in 30 seconds. The cold grabbed me the moment I pushed through the door. -12 with wind chill, and I felt every degree of it. I walked across the lot toward the car with my hands jammed in my pockets, watching that silhouette through the windshield the whole time. It didn't react to me, didn't shift when the door opened behind me, didn't turn when I got within 10 feet. Within 5, I got right up to the driver's window and knocked on the glass twice with my knuckle. Nothing. I leaned down and looked through the window. The car was empty, not just the driver's seat. Front seat, back seat, floor, all of it. Nothing. But the engine was running, heat blowing full through the vents, and a paper coffee cup in the center console cup holder with steam still rising off the top. Whoever had been in this car had been there recently enough that their coffee was still hot. The driver's door wasn't fully latched. I could tell by the thin strip of interior cabin light showing at the door frame, the kind that stays on when a door is barely open. I stepped back and looked around the lot. Empty. I looked at the tree line beyond the back fence. Dark. I looked at the road in both directions. Nothing. Then I looked down at the gravel around the car. The lot had a thin layer of frost crystals settled over everything. The kind that accumulates over an hour or two when there's no foot traffic disturbing it. Around the car on all sides, the frost was undisturbed. No footprints walking away from the driver's door. No disturbed gravel. No marks in any direction showing which way someone had gone, like the person had been in the seat 1 second and simply wasn't there the next. I circled the car twice. I got on my hands and knees and checked under it with my phone flashlight. Nothing. I went back inside and locked the door. That's when the station phone rang. The landline behind the counter, an old corded thing, the number not posted anywhere publicly, used maybe twice in the 4 months I'd worked there. I stared at it through 2 full rings. Something in my gut told me not to answer it. I answered it anyway. The voice was a woman's, calm and quiet in a way that wasn't natural calm. It was the deliberate, controlled quiet of someone keeping themselves together through concentration. She wasn't whispering, she was just precise, choosing every single word. She said, "Don't let anyone inside tonight. Don't open the door for anyone. Do you understand me?" I said, "Who is this? What's going on?" 3 seconds of silence, then the line went dead. I stood holding the receiver. My hand was steady, but something behind my sternum had shifted and wasn't going back. I set the phone down slowly and looked up at the security monitor. At the far end of the lot, where the entrance road meets the highway, a truck was sitting. I hadn't heard it pull up, hadn't seen headlights sweep across the lot the way they do when something turns in. It was just there, large, dark, a full-size pickup or something bigger, and even on the grainy camera feed I could see there was no front license plate. Its headlights were on and aimed directly at the building, at the front window, at me. It wasn't pulling forward to the pumps. It was just sitting at the edge of the property, in the dark, with its lights pointed at me like it was waiting for something specific. I moved without thinking, killed every interior light in the store, the overheads, the display case lights, all of it, dropped behind the counter in the dark, put my back against the lower cabinet, and called 911 from my cell phone. I kept my voice as low as I could, told the dispatcher there was an abandoned vehicle at my pump, a suspicious truck at the entrance blocking the road, and a threatening phone call on the landline. She told me units were responding, but given the road conditions and my location, I was looking at 15 to 20 minutes minimum. I said, okay. I stayed on the floor. I watched the monitor from below counter level, craning my neck up every 30 seconds to check the feeds. The truck didn't move. 5 minutes. 10. The headlights stayed fixed on the building the entire time, not shifting, not dimming, just locked on. I kept thinking about the woman on the phone. Don't let anyone inside. The way she said it, not panicked, not hysterical, like she was giving me a procedure, like this was something with steps, and that was the most important one. At the 11-minute mark, the truck moved. It didn't pull forward. It didn't turn around in the lot. It simply reversed, slowly, deliberately, no urgency at all, back onto the highway and drove away in the direction it had come from. The headlights shrank and disappeared. The lot went dark again, and the green sedan was still sitting at the pump, engine still running, exhaust still rising in the cold. The 2 state troopers arrived 19 minutes later. They walked the lot, checked the sedan, ran the plates. One of them went quiet when the registration came back and stepped about 20 feet away to make a phone call. When he returned, his face had changed in the way faces change when something has moved from routine to serious. He told me the car was registered to a woman named Carla, 31 years old, from a town roughly 90 miles east of where we were standing. He told me she had been reported missing 14 days ago. Her family had last heard from her on January 16th. The vehicle had never shown up in any system as recovered or located. For 14 days, nobody had known where this car was. They towed it. They took my full statement, told me to call if I thought of anything else. I called my manager at 5 a.m. and quit before he finished saying hello. The phone company confirmed the landline call came from a prepaid cell, never activated before that night, never used again after, completely untraceable. The troopers told me they'd look into the truck, but without a plate and without a crime, they didn't have much to go on. I don't know if they ever found anything. Nobody called me back. What I haven't been able to stop thinking about, what actually keeps me awake, is the logistics of that phone call. Someone knew that truck was coming to that specific station on that specific night. They had a prepaid phone ready. They had the landline number that wasn't listed anywhere. And they called me from somewhere close enough that they knew the situation in real time, to tell me to keep the door locked. They called instead of coming inside. Whatever was in that truck, whoever was driving it, that woman on the phone knew what it was. She knew what it would do if it got through that door, and she chose to warn me from a distance rather than come anywhere near the building herself. I think about that choice a lot, what she knew that made her make it. My phone rings late sometimes, wrong numbers, spam, the usual. It doesn't matter. Every single time, the half second before I answer, my stomach drops like I'm falling, every time without exception. 2 years later, and it still does it. I don't think it's going to stop. My name is Rachel. I'm 31 now. This happened when I was 25, 1 year into my marriage. driving alone through Wyoming in December. I don't tell this story often. When I do, I leave parts out. I'm not leaving anything out tonight. I was driving back from my mother's house, a 3-hour stretch on a 2-lane highway, well past midnight, 8 degrees outside, black ice warnings on the radio every 20 minutes. My husband Daniel was home. I was alone. The highway was the kind of empty that stops feeling like freedom after the first hour and starts feeling like something is wrong with the world. No trucks, no headlights, nothing moving in either direction except my car and whatever the wind was doing to the frozen fields on both sides of the road. The fuel light came on past mile marker 74. I'd been watching it for 30 miles, telling myself the next exit would have something. The first exit had nothing. The second exit had a single pale light visible from the highway, maybe a quarter mile off the road. I took it. The access road was unpaved, frozen solid, my headlights bouncing over old ruts. The light resolved into a single flood lamp on a rusted pole over a small gravel lot. The building underneath it was low and brick, 2 old pump islands, a hand-painted sign above the door that said Arno's, the bottom half completely peeled away, one window glowing faint orange from inside. Not bright, not welcoming, just the dim glow of a single bulb left on in a room. No other vehicles anywhere in the lot. I sat in the car, looking at it for a moment. Something about the stillness of the place made my hands tighten on the wheel without me deciding to do that. But it was 8 degrees and my tank was empty. I went in. The man behind the counter was maybe late 60s, heavy-set, flannel shirt, sleeves rolled up like the cold meant nothing to him. He looked up when I came in and gave me a single nod. Not friendly, not threatening, just the bare minimum of human acknowledgement. The store was small, snack shelves, a drink cooler humming too loud along the back wall, a small TV near the ceiling playing the weather channel on mute. It smelled like burnt coffee and something underneath it I couldn't identify right away. Something faintly sweet in a wrong way, the way something smells sweet when it's been closed up and left too long. I asked to use the restroom. He pointed at a hallway along the right wall without speaking. One working bulb in the hallway, one dead socket, 2 doors. I pushed into the women's room. Small toilet, sink, mirror gone brown at the edges, a bare pull-string bulb overhead. I locked the door with the sliding bolt and turned around. I noticed the lock immediately when I turned back to it. The bolt bracket was mounted in a way that made no sense for a lock meant to keep people out. The orientation of the catch meant the bolt could be manipulated from outside the door. Something thin slid through the gap at the bottom. A screwdriver, anything flat, could drag that bar back from the hallway side. I stood looking at it, told myself it was old hardware. Bad installation, nothing. I used the restroom. I was washing my hands when I saw the vent, low on the wall above the baseboard, to the left of the sink, standard size. But it was sitting an inch out from the wall, not flush, not fully open, just ajar, and on the tile directly beneath it were 2 loose screws and a fine scatter of drywall dust that hadn't been there long enough to collect any grime. Someone had removed that grate and put it back recently. Not maintenance recently. Recently like tonight recently. I was still looking at it when the light went out. No flicker, no warning, just gone. Instant, total darkness, the kind that has actual weight against your eyes. I grabbed the sink edge and stood completely still. My brain did the thing it does when all visual input cuts off. It starts manufacturing shapes in the black, movement that isn't there. I pressed my back teeth together and told myself to be still. That's when I heard him outside the door. Not footsteps passing, not someone checking if the room was occupied. 2 steps and then stopping, directly outside. The old floorboard gave one slow creak as weight settled onto it, and then nothing, just presence. Stillness on the other side of a door with a lock that could be opened from that side. Not knocking, not speaking. Just standing in the dark hallway outside a bathroom he knew had just gone black, waiting with the particular patience of someone who has done this before. I did not move. I counted. 1, 2, 3. I got to 22 before I heard the thing in the wall. It started soft, the sound of fabric, a sleeve or a shoulder brushing against a hard surface inside the ventilation shaft. Slow movement, Not scurrying, not frantic, deliberate, measured. The sound of something moving through a tight space toward an opening it already knew was there, taking its time because it wasn't worried about being heard. I looked at the vent in the dark, and my phone was already in my hand, turning the flashlight on before I consciously decided to reach for it. The grate had moved. It was open wider than before, 3, maybe 4 inches, the near edge sitting out from the wall, and in the gap behind it there was darkness deeper than the room's darkness, the specific black of a shaft going back into a wall, and at the very edge of where my flashlight reached inside that shaft, there was something pale, a hand, fingers, still, palm facing down, resting against the bottom of the shaft like someone lying flat inside it, weight on their forearms, completely motionless, not moving toward me anymore, just stopped, like whatever was in there had heard my flashlight click on and gone completely still. I stared at it for what my brain says was 2 seconds and what my body says was much longer. Then I hit the door with my palm. Hard. Twice. Not screaming. I physically could not make a loud sound. My throat had sealed, just hitting the wood and saying in a voice I didn't recognize as mine, "I need help." The light went out. Nothing from outside. No answer. No movement. I threw the bolt, yanked the door open, and walked out. The hallway was empty. I went straight for the front of the store, not running because some part of my brain believed that if I ran, something behind me would decide to move. I came out of the hallway and stopped. The man was gone. The counter was empty. The stool was empty. The TV still played silent weather maps. I looked through the front window at my car at the pump, parked directly beside it. So close the bodies of the 2 vehicles were nearly touching was a dark truck that had not been there when I came in. No front plate. The cab looked empty, and my passenger door was standing open. I always close my car door. Every time. Automatic. Habit. So deep I don't think about it. My passenger door was standing open in 8-degree air, the dome light on inside, my bag still on the seat, everything in place, nothing taken. Like someone had opened it, looked, and left it open on purpose, like a message, like, "I was here, I could have taken anything. I chose to leave it open so you'd know." I got into my car. I don't remember crossing the lot. I remember being in the driver's seat, with the door locked and the engine running, and pulling out of that lot so fast I scraped the undercarriage on the frozen access road. I drove for 7 miles without being able to properly breathe. Daniel filed a report the next morning. A state trooper drove out to the address. He called Daniel back that afternoon. He said the building had been vacant for 3 years. Arno's closed in 2019. Power disconnected at the meter. No working pumps, no electricity, no staff. The front door was supposed to be boarded. Daniel asked him about the lit window, the man behind the counter, the truck. The trooper said he had no explanation for any of it. I still think about those fingers in the shaft. How still they went the moment my light hit them. How something that was moving toward me, slowly, patiently through a wall, just stopped and waited. That stillness bothers me more than the movement did. Movement means panic. That kind of stillness means experience. It means whatever was in that wall had done this before and knew exactly when to stop. I taped every vent in our house that week. Daniel took them down. I put them back. We compromised on covers with the slats shut. I checked them every night before I sleep. I've never used a gas station restroom again. I've driven 40 miles out of my way to avoid stopping at isolated exits after dark. My husband thinks I've gotten better. I haven't gotten better. I've gotten quieter about it. Those are not the same thing. My name is Joel. I'm 34 now. This happened 2 years ago, and I still think about it more than I should. I was driving from Billings down to Salt Lake City. Long drive, and I'd started late. So by the time I hit the middle stretch of highway, it was past midnight. The sky had been heavy and gray since around 9 that evening. Thick clouds sitting low, no stars, no moon, just a flat dark ceiling pressing down over the road. Around 11, the wind picked up enough that I could feel it nudging the car on the straight road. I turned the radio up and kept going. Just past midnight, the first drops hit the windshield. Light at first. the kind where you're not sure if you need wipers yet. Within 20 minutes, it had gone from light to steady, to the kind of rain where the wipers are going full speed and you're still leaning toward the glass, trying to see. The road was 2 lanes, no divider, no street lights, nothing on either side but black fields and the occasional reflective post going by in the headlights. I slowed down to 50, then 45. My phone had lost signal about 30 miles back. No GPS, no music, just the wipers and the rain and 60 feet of wet road ahead before everything went dark. I was down to less than a quarter tank when I saw the light off to the right. No highway sign for it. No advance warning. Just a break in the darkness. A single canopy light over 2 pumps, that yellow-white color that looks almost greenish through heavy rain, and a low building set back from the road with 1 window lit inside. I slowed down and turned in. The lot was gravel, already soft from the rain. My tires crunched and sank slightly as I pulled up to the nearest pump. I sat with the engine running for a second and looked at the place through the wet windshield. No other cars anywhere. The canopy light above me buzzed. I could hear it even through the closed windows and the rain. The building had a sign with half the letters dark, the working one spelling out something ending in Mart. 1 window, glowing orange from inside. 1 door. I pulled my jacket over my head and ran for it. Inside was warm. Too warm, actually. The aggressive kind of heat that hits you after cold rain and makes your skin prickle. Small store. 3 short aisles, a drink cooler humming along the back wall, a coffee machine to the left, and behind the counter, a woman, maybe 40 years old, dark hair pulled back, red store vest over a gray shirt. She looked up when I came in and smiled. Not a big smile, just the tired end-of-shift kind that's still genuine. "Ugly night out there," she said. "Yeah," I said. "Came out of nowhere." "Been like that for 2 hours," she said. "You're the first person in since around 10. I grabbed a coffee and a bag of chips, brought them to the counter. We talked for maybe 3 minutes, how far Salt Lake was, whether the rain was supposed to clear, nothing important. She seemed completely normal, the kind of person you forget about 10 miles down the road because there was nothing wrong with them at all. I paid, said thanks, and headed back out into the rain. I was at my car, key in hand, jacket over my head, when I heard the door open behind me. "Hey, you forgot your receipt." I turned around. She was standing in the doorway, one hand holding the door open, the other holding a small strip of paper out toward me. Rain falling in the space between us, hitting the canopy and bouncing off the gravel in the lot. I walked back, stepped under the overhang, took the receipt from her hand, said thanks, turned and walked back to my car. I was pulling out of the lot when my headlights swept across the side of the building. There was a window on the side wall, small, high up, the frosted kind you see in bathrooms, and pressed against the inside of it, visible for exactly 1 second as my headlights crossed it, was a face, not glancing out, not looking casually, pressed against the glass, forehead flat against it, both hands up on either side, fingers spread, the way you press your face against a window when you're trying to see something in the dark outside. And in that 1 second of headlight sweeping across it, I saw it clearly enough. It was her face, same dark hair, same features, the woman from behind the counter. I stopped the car. I sat there with the engine running and the wipers going and looked at that window. My headlights were past it now, the window dark again. I sat there and did the math on the timing. She had come to the door to give me the receipt. I walked back, took it from her hand, walked back to my car, got in, started moving. That was maybe 40 seconds for her to get back inside, past the counter, through a back room, and get to that side window, pressed against it like that, in 40 seconds. I put the car in park. I got out. I know how that sounds. Every part of me said, get back on the highway. But I kept thinking, what if that wasn't her at the window? What if something was in there with her? What if she was the one, pressed against that glass, because she needed someone outside to see her? I walked around the side of the building, through the rain. The window was about 8 feet off the ground, too high to see into from standing. I stopped underneath it and just listened. From inside the wall, directly above me, I heard her voice, not calling out, not talking, singing, very quietly, almost under the sound of the rain. A slow, low melody with no words I could make out. The kind of soft humming a person does when they think they're completely alone, when they don't know anyone can hear them. I stood completely still. The singing stopped. Then I heard something that I have spent 2 years trying to describe, and the closest I can get is this. It was the sound of something shifting its weight, not footsteps across a floor, not movement, just the specific sound of something that had been holding completely still for a long time, adjusting its position slightly, the way an animal does when it's been crouching and one leg gets tired. It came from directly above me, from just inside that wall, from whatever was standing at that window in the dark. My legs went heavy, not weak, heavy, like they needed an extra second to agree to move. Then the singing started again, same melody, but lower this time, slower, like it was trying a different version of it. I walked back to my car. I want to say I ran. I didn't. Something in my head said very clearly, do not run. Do not make any sound that says you heard something. Walk normally. Get in. Drive away at normal speed. I did exactly that. 11 miles down the road, my hand started shaking on the wheel. I pulled onto the shoulder and sat there in the rain with the hazards on and the doors locked. Here is the thing I can't get past. When I was at the counter, that woman spoke to me for 3 minutes. I know her voice, the pitch of it, the pace of it, the specific tired quality of it. The voice singing under that window was her voice, not similar, exactly hers. But when she'd come to the door to give me the receipt, I had looked at her, I had taken the paper from her hand, and in the second before I turned to go, I noticed something I didn't register as wrong until I was standing under that window. When I was inside at the counter, her red vest had a small tear on the left shoulder. I noticed it the way you notice small things you're not paying attention to. When she came to the door to give me the receipt, the vest was perfect. Clean shoulder, no tear. I found the business records later. That station's last operating license expired in 2017. The building has been empty for years. I don't know what was behind that counter. I don't know what was at the window. I don't know if they were the same thing or two separate things. I know that something spoke to me in a woman's voice, handed me a piece of paper with a hand that felt completely normal, then got to a window 40 seconds later that it shouldn't have been able to reach, and then sang quietly to itself in the dark after I walked away. Not performing, not trying to lure me back, just practicing, running through the sounds it had collected, getting the voice exactly right for the next person who turned in off the highway. I plan every fuel stop in advance now. Busy exits only. Lights and people and cameras. My brother thinks I'm being paranoid. Maybe. But I keep thinking about that singing, how relaxed it was. How it wasn't for me. I was already leaving. It was just there in the dark, behind that wall, in the rain, alone, working on something. That's the part I can't put down. Not what it could have done. What it was doing when it thought nobody was listening anymore.